Hello.
Welcome back to the Tingling Tea. It's your boy Mayhem Mike. Yes, I am the host right now because we pushed Augie off. No, Augie.
What?
Yes, we got to push you off because now instead you are my special co-host. Welcome back to all things cryptic, weird, and scary. We have a great show for you today. Augie, tell them what they're in for.
All right. Well, yes, we are a podcast that talks about the strange and the supernatural, the creepy and the cryptid, the weird and the wonderful, and all things phenomenally freaky.
Very nice. Very nice.
And that's right. And of course, neither one of us look like SistaSlaya because SistaSlaya is working her magic in the background right now. So it's just up to us to keep this thing going. So we're going to do the best we can.
Yes, we are.
For all those new to joining us, we broadcast on Thursday nights at 7:30, and we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. But we are up for something new.
What are we going to do?
We have decided in the new year that we're going to change Tuesdays to Tingling Tuesdays.
Ooh, hashtag Tingling Tuesdays.
Hashtag Tingling Tuesdays. So join us on Tuesday night, January 4th. From 7:30 to 8:30 live right here. And we will broadcast a very exciting another episode of Tingling Tea. So we're really happy to have everybody on tonight. Mike, thank you for your introduction. And I want to introduce someone exciting.
Oh, who?
We have a guest named Neil Cohen. Now, Neil is an author of The Business is Dead, Resurrecting Entrepreneurship, and Exit Zero Trilogy. Let's see if Neil can be brought on. Let's see if the magic of this streaming situation can actually happen and Neil can be brought. There's Neil. Thank you so much.
Oh, Neil. Hello. I didn't see you there. I was just sitting here drinking my tingling tea. I didn't see you come in.
I'm very happy it's tingling.
We appreciate that.
I love that your background says business is dead. What is dead about business? Tell me.
Yes. Well, hello, welcome. Thank you for jumping right into it because there's nothing I love more talking more than about myself and my books.
Excellent.
Business is Dead, Resurrecting Entrepreneurship is my fourth book, and it's my first nonfiction. but it is still spooky and eerie and scary. So it keeps with the theme of the show. Business is Dead. I actually, so to give you the backstory, I had written a trilogy of novels called the Exit Zero Zombie Trilogy. Exit Zero was the first book, Nuke Jersey was the second book, and Zombie Democracy was the third book. And I went out and I was promoting it and selling it for a number of years. And I did it at a bunch of Comic Cons and horror cons and book cons and small press cons and art cons. And one of the things I realized while I was there is, while I would have a booth and while people were in sessions and they weren't particularly walking around the exhibit area, I would walk around and talk to the other exhibitors. And I would see these extremely talented artists and writers and crafters who didn't know how to kind of tell their story, didn't know how to promote themselves because they were pure talent. Like I would be sitting at my booth and I would be watching this artist across the aisle from me, and he would be drawing during the con and doing illustrations, and I would see people come up and flipping through his work and looking, and he wouldn't even look up, no eye contact, nothing, and then the person would wander off, and I'd be like, my God, that person paid the same amount of money I did for this booth. He's probably flew here, he traveled, he brought his stuff, he's paying for food, he's paying for a hotel, and someone's obviously interested, and the guy just blew it in the execution. Sometimes I would walk around, I would go to someone's booth and I would be looking, and I would see there would be crafts and there would be books and there would be art, and I looked for about 3-4 minutes. I said, what the hell do you do? And I was like, here I'm at the con, you spent all this effort, it's a strange looking booth, but I don't even know what you do. Sure. And I realized that these people had amazing talent, but didn't have the business background, didn't have the sales background. And I had been doing sales, marketing, business development for 35 years. That's my real job. And so I started talking to them, advising them, talking to them about how to better position their creative work. And I went to a producer of one of the events one time, and I said, hey, I'd like to grab 5 or 6 vendors from Artist Alley and bring them on stage and do a panel with them and interview them. How did they get started? This was actually a Walking Dead themed conference, but I said, I want to talk to them about, they were obviously so involved in The Walking Dead. They were such fans of The Walking Dead that they began creating items to sell and to do business around The Walking Dead. One had a tour group. One had started a philanthropy. One baked cakes. One had created mock zombie props and body parts and everything. And I said, these people are super fans. Let's bring them on stage. And the producer said, that's not really what we do. We bring in the celebrities, but let's try it. We had an open session. So we promoted it. I brought up 6 fans who had started their businesses, and it was just huge. We had more people show up to that panel session than some of the major celebrities. And at that point, I said, I got something here. And so Business is Dead, Resurrecting Entrepreneurship. It's all about fantrepreneurs, people who were fans of a genre. Now, I wrote about The Walking Dead. I'm a fan of The Walking Dead. Fandom is such a huge ocean. You can't just boil it all.
Sure.
So I chose The Walking Dead, but it's a book for anyone of any fandom. And I give case studies about how people, you don't have to have an MBA, you don't even have to have a college degree, how you can create a business to kind of celebrate your fandom and to be part of that genre. So it's not about making money. It's about the passion. There's a chance you'll make money, but that's not the way to go into this. This is not like, hey, I'm trying to decide Subway franchise or crafting zombie arms. No. I am a fan of Twilight. I am a fan of The Crown. I am a fan of insert television series or comic series here. And I want to be more than a fan. I want to craft something. I want to give tours of areas. I want to paint something. I want to create websites about that fandom. I want to go to cons. I want to have panel sessions online. And if I just spend a couple hours or a couple days just talking with fellow fans, I'll consider it a success.
It's kind of the story of Tingling Tea. It was just SistaSlaya and I were just talking about how much we love horror movies and how we wish we could just talk about this stuff all the time. And we always were interested in supernatural things. So what do we do? How do we participate in that? And we said, well, let's just start a series of broadcasts that talk about this stuff. And, our similarly minded people will find us. And so this is a really helpful thing. I'm very curious about the insights that you bring into this, because it seems like everybody now has their own sort of spin because to take advantage of things that they like, because things are so accessible now. Social media is accessible. Doing things and getting out there and connecting to people is much more accessible than it was before. And giving people that extra piece of knowledge to make that connection more meaningful sounds like a really good book.
And also, there's a couple of things it ties into. It ties into the gig economy. Whether it's a side hustle, whether you're doing it full time, whether you got a job full time, and this is something you do on the weekends to just get your creative juices flowing or get your fandom flowing, or if you're doing a number of jobs, and and this is one of them. That's what what it's all about. And we were talking just before the show about with the pandemic and cons, sometimes being sacrificed, having to reinvent. There was a lot of people out there who did businesses that were 100% person focused, people interaction,
like live people focused. Yeah,
exactly. Magicians, comedians, and suddenly that audience went away, and they had to transition to virtual. Like for my company, the last 2 company outings or briefings we had, which were virtual because the company didn't want to get everybody together, we had a magician. And each time the magician did a show, and I was kind of thinking like, oh, this is going to be lame. I could watch a magician on YouTube, but no, it was so well done. It was so interactive. It was so involving all of us, even though we were on a Teams call or a Zoom call, and it was all our coworkers there. He was interacting with us, and the magic interacted with the individual players. So this is someone who had to recreate his entire kind of shtick to do an online version of what he would be normally doing close up in front of people at a club.
And isn't that what we all have to deal with, right? We're all... As soon as we get comfortable, things change. Things change drastically, like the pandemic, or things change incrementally. But we constantly have to be reinventing ourselves. So this idea of having to, do something today that works, and then constantly be trying to change and alter what you do because of everything changing around you is something that will be a consistent theme for people to deal with.
Yeah, and and then we're going to have to change again, because eventually this is going to go away and we're going to go back to the way things were. And you're like, hey, man, I've been sitting in my house on 8 hours of Zoom and Teams calls for the past 2 years. Now I got to go back and figure out how to interact with human beings in a real world. Suddenly it's changing again.
We're like the final girl, right? You come in and you're just innocent, and then all this stuff happens around you. And then you try to re-enter society, and you're just not the same person anymore.
Yep. We're like Brooks from Shawshank Redemption. We've all become institutionalized.
Well, I want to say that I think you hit up on a really good word, which is called transition. A lot of businesses have failed to transition. Me and Sista behind the scenes have talked about businesses that have failed to transition to kind of keep it going and to adapt to their market. I fully believe that this is not going away. Businesses have seen the productivity and the progression of not necessarily spending so much to kind of keep certain people home. But even still, they'll kind of keep certain practices in play. What I want to know from your book is, do you also talk about the impact of going back and forth and transition and what it's done? Because I grew up with a saying from Wrigley Brothers where it's like, any news is good news.
Yeah.
And that's how they got so big.
Yeah. Well, no, because I wrote the book before, first I wrote 3 books about a pandemic, and the book series is about a pandemic during a presidential election year.
Mhm.
So I have
Nice.
so many things that came true in the book.
Yes.
Now the book came out. I wrote the first short story, and I self-published it as a graphic novel in 2013. That kind of hit, and I got picked up by a publisher in 2015. He re-released that was, and then it was re-released as a full novel in 2016. Then the following book came out in 17. The following, and the third book came out in 18. So it was Exit Zero first, Nuke Jersey second, and Zombie Democracy, which closed out the trilogy. And the story was about a pandemic that releases. It starts in New Jersey, because you always just knew the zombie apocalypse was going to begin in New Jersey.
Hello, of course.
Then the second book, New Jersey, sealed off. So I had I had convalescent plasma in there.
Yes.
I had social distancing. They closed all the colleges to house the zombies. But then I have the presidential election in the third book, because in my book, the zombie apocalypse comes, but society doesn't fall. The government doesn't fall. We just learn to adapt. Life goes on, only there's zombies everywhere. And so it's one more thing that could kill you every day when you walk out of your house, but you still got to go to work. You still got to go out and get food. You still got to go out on dates. Now there's just zombies, and you just got to and there's bureaucracies that take care of them. There's technology to help you avoid them and all that stuff. So in my third book, it's post-zombie apocalypse, and it's time for the first presidential election. So when I wrote Business is Dead, there was I still had no real thought that it was actually going to happen. So it came out at the end of 2019. So I had book signings and Comic Cons and horror cons and small press cons lined up for me to sell and market the book all through 2020. Well, guess what? Everything just got wiped out.
Right.
Every appearance was canceled, everything. So I had to pivot. But no, I didn't have that in there. But mainly, one thing I talk about in the book, in the beginning of the book, I said, look, it's not a business book. If you want to learn to be an entrepreneur, if you want to learn the mechanics, the financials, the tax accounting, the legal ramifications, I said there's 400,000 entrepreneurship books out there. None of them have zombies. But they're all equally good and probably equally boring. I said, mine is all about purely fandom-driven businesses.
Yeah. Now, speaking of fandom, back when you wrote these books, when you wrote the trilogy, what was the inspiration for writing the trilogy? So, especially zombies. Like, what was it about zombies that you liked?
Well, honestly, zombies terrified me as a kid, and I was never afraid of anything else. Like, nothing else scared me. Zombies, like, I had this almost unnatural terror about zombies. I think it was because I got exposed to zombie movies way too young, and it scarred me. And I couldn't even see a movie or anything about zombies until I was probably in my 20s.
Wow.
Like, it was that intense of a fear. And then, it's always that kind of thing. The thing that just terrifies you most, sometimes you embrace. And then I started reading zombie novels. I remember when they came out, and some of them came out, they were few and far in between. You could only find a couple. And I just became obsessed with it. Anything zombie and post-apocalyptic. If you had zombies and apocalypse, that was two great tastes that taste great together. And I became obsessed. I started watching every movie and every television. And I had my own idea of how the zombie apocalypse would come about. Now, to give you some background, my real job, I work for a defense contractor, and our focus is Chem, Bio, Red, Nuke, CBRN. And I've been doing this for 20 years. So I've been focused on, pandemics and weapons of mass destruction and, everything that could kill you in a large scale way. And that's my business. And when I would talk to these guys, everybody loved the zombie genre, because from military to law enforcement to fire to emergency management, they all had mock zombie apocalypse plans, because it is a fantastic training scenario. It gives you a complex cascading event that involves civil unrest, involves mass pandemic and sickness. It involves the breakdown of society. It involves first responders not showing up because it's such a terrifying scenario that even they are staying home to protect their own families. So everything falls apart so fast with a zombie outbreak that they use it for scenarios to create, when they're doing exercises. How would we handle the medical?
Let me just ask.
Yeah.
So they really do. These are government agencies that actually have zombie apocalypse scenarios that are like desktop scenario where they tabletop situations where they all get into a room and they talk about what would happen if all of these scenarios happened.
I've had about a dozen National Guard bureaus send me their state's zombie apocalypse preparedness plan.
Jeez.
I have seen federal zombie
apocalypse
plans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Without breaking any agreements that you may have and getting you in trouble, how screwed are a lot of us? If something like, say a zombie apocalypse happens tomorrow, and I'm talking about like the slow shamblers, like the
just
running
you.
zombies.
Yeah.
Just
like
you
the
in
running.
particular, Mike.
Like,
just you in particular.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because they it is, you got to think, think of mass civil unrest. Now, when I was talking with these agencies, I would say to them, give me a scenario that would be the most applicable to a zombie-like pandemic. And I use some of that stuff in my book, but one of the things they were doing was mass hallucination through aerosol psychedelics. Like if you took a large gathering of people and they released a psychedelic, an aerosolized psychedelic, and people just became crazed, how would you handle a situation? Literally, everybody's just lost their mind and you're not getting them back. So that was kind of the most like that could happen very soon. So one, nobody's coming for you. One of the things that they've planned for is, and it's funny, in my book, I have an assault on the Capitol. I have a joint meeting. The president is addressing the Congress and the Senate when, of course, all hell breaks loose and everybody gets wiped out at once. So you saw even on January 6th, you've seen before on September 11th, there is no real way to get all the people that think they're important out of Washington, D.C. on time.
Yeah.
The plan is to get them to Raven Rock, which is Site R, or Mount Weather in Virginia. But
wasn't there something about Greenbrier at some point? The Greenbrier,
yeah, that was the old way, and that's in West Virginia, and you can go tour those sites. Site R, Raven Rock, and Mount Weather are still, everybody knows these places, are still the places. But the point is, there's no way to get them there. So, like, you would see a ton of congressmen standing around saying, wait, when are they evacuating us? Nobody is evacuating a congressman. They are not any importance. The president, the vice president, joint chiefs of staff, senior level decision makers, but that's about it. Once you get below that,
not even like senior Congress people.
No, the Congress. No, they're as good as dead. There's no way. There's no way
to get
Senate? All these people.
Let's hear it for the Senate. The Senate.
The Senate. Some of the but that's you got.
Doesn't sound like they're going to make it.
And they would all have to, but the thing is, they would all have to have been there. And they would all have to be able to say, F the family, I'm jumping on that helicopter knowing my family's going to die. So I'm going. And so only the ones that are going to do that are the ones that are getting out. Because the rest ain't getting it. They're not taking the family. They're not taking Congress. They're not taking staff. They're not taking the pets. There's only a small amount they could actually get out quickly and get to these sites. And those sites are going to get overwhelmed real quick, because first of all, they're difficult to get to and those roads are going to get jammed real quick. So, but in talking.
And there's going to be zombies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, but in talking to the military and in talking to a lot of people that do this for a living, like literally think about these large scale disasters, there's very little chance that the government would fall. In the movies, it falls real quick, and society falls real quick, and chances are that's actually not going to happen.
Really?
It would be more. That's why I wanted to tell the story in my book, because it would be more of like September 11th. Okay, there's going to just be a lot of bureaucracy, but eventually people are pretty resilient, and people just adapt, kind of like with COVID. People adapted, and then we would just adapt to the new normal of having zombies. And there would just be, like, in my book, you get like weather alerts when there is large hordes of thousands of zombies coming through an area. You get an alert, tells you to go home, make sure you have enough food and meds and bread and milk and toilet paper for 3-4 days. Don't try to clear your property. If there's a lot of zombies on your property, don't go out and start shooting them. In my book, you can't kill them because they are living infected people. So they're not reanimated dead. They're living infected, and there's laws, and you can't just kill someone because they're infected.
Do you have to like fortify your home?
You
somehow?
Can fortify. You can do whatever you want. If they try to break in, you can defend, but you can't just go out and start killing zombies.
Neil,
in my book, you have to call the government to take care of them, and they develop technologies to report the zombies, and there's to come and get them and clear your property and clear areas, and you just have to stay home and deal with it while they're there. And
they're like a tag and release program or something.
Well, and it's funny because then they have, in my book, and when it's time for the presidential election, that each candidate has two different platforms on what to do with them, because one is running on the death with dignity, saying, look, you can't get these people back. They're zombies. Yes, they're alive, but they don't think, they don't reason. They just kill you, eat you, and if you get away, they infect you, and you start spreading it. So we have to just put these people down humanely. We just have to kill them. And the other candidates say, no, we can't just kill them. They are living people. They are Americans. We can't just start slaughtering thousands and thousands and thousands of people. But yes, we do have to protect ourselves. So each of them has a different platform on how to deal with it. And now you can take that and kind of put it towards a lot of different societal elements. So, like, what do we do with the elderly? What do we do with Alzheimer's patients? What do we do with the chronically sick? What do we do with the chronically violent?
It's the euthanasia debate.
Exactly. So in my book, there's the country has to decide which way they want to go, because at one point a company is hired to manage the zombies, and it's found out that they are slowly euthanizing them, but doing it on the down low, and that gets found out, and it's a big scandal.
So I'm a big fan of movies. What was the horror movie or the zombie movie that really set you off?
Well, when I was a kid, and I'm giving away my age here, I saw Children Mustn't Play with Dead Things. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's an older movie from the 70s. Okay. And it was absolutely terrifying. I actually saw that before Dawn of the Dead. Children Mustn't Play with Dead Things, still a classic. Still zombie movie, just low budget, horrifying, terrifying. And then I think I actually saw like Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Before I saw Night of the Living Dead, and it was Dawn of the Dead, the first one, the one that came out, I guess, what was that, late 78, 79 maybe? That was probably, I'm sorry, what?
So Dawn of the Dead, I have it right here. So Night of the Living Dead, of course, came out in 68.
Yeah.
And then Dawn of the Dead came out in 78.
Yeah. So that was probably the first zombie movie that I saw that was beyond terrifying to me. Just absolutely hiding behind the seats of the chair in front of me kind of thing, So 78, I was about 12 years old, so that was probably about the time you would see a movie like that and want to see it and just still be scared shitless.
What were you saying, Mike? I cut you off.
No worries. I wanted because we had it on the list. We could definitely get the book on Amazon. We could definitely get it on Barnes and Nobles. Where else can we find your book? And also, really quickly, are there any social platforms that you're on so that way we can reference that as well?
Absolutely. Well, you can find it at my website, businessisdead.com, spelled out businessisdead.com.
Okay.
And then if you go to Amazon, if you go to EZ Zombie, so like Exit Zero Zombie, it's just ezzombie.com. It takes you right to the Amazon site, and it's actually nukejersey.com takes you to the Amazon site of New Jersey, and zombie-democracy.com takes you to that. But as soon as you get to the EZ Zombie, it gets you right there. And then all my social media is easy to find. Exit Zero Zombie, at Exit Zero Zombie, spelled out. That's my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher. I think I have a Pinterest, but I'm not really active on that. So yeah, that's the best way to find it. And Amazon, YouTube. I actually there is a place called the Exit Zero Filling Station in Cape May, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And they carry my Exit Zero books there simply because, Exit Zero in New Jersey is Cape May, New Jersey, and they're called
I
Exit
love
Zero.
it.
So
Amazing.
I gave them a whole bunch of signed books. They sell it there. And then the Business is Dead book is actually, if you want to get signed copies in Sonoya, Georgia, there's a place called Abraham's Army. It's a store that the guy is a doppelganger of Abraham from the television show. The red hair, the mutton chops. He looks exactly like Abraham, and he's got a store, and he's got all the backgrounds of The Walking Dead, and he sells everything Walking Dead themed, and he carries the Business is Dead signed copies there. But you got to go. I think he'll ship them to you, but it's in Sonoya, Georgia. That's where they filmed The Walking Dead.
Yeah. All right. So definitely I'm already following you. So I'll definitely be checking it out. It looks amazing. Augie already asked, what was your inspiration? What has been some of the feedback you've gotten? Because I know everybody loves it, but what's some of the great feedback of the books? Because for you to write a whole trilogy, I mean, you got to be getting great feedback. And I can only imagine that you have more ideas on the way.
You would think. No. Yeah. So it's been good because they've been out for years, and I still get, they're still selling, which is great. Because I tried to come up with something new. It's fun. They're funny. I didn't want just pure horror. It's New Jersey. It takes place in New Jersey. The characters are very Jersey-centric.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and I got a great mafia story in there. Like, I had written some short stories. I'd written some stories about guys growing up in Jersey in the 70s and 80s, and then I had written a mafia short story, and it was kind of like, these are all cool, but what would I do with them? I was going to try to get them in anthologies, and then I just kept writing, and then they all just came together, and I said, well, what if I put these characters into one scenario? And that's where the first book came about. And what happened was I self-published in 2013. It sold well. I got picked up by a publisher, continued to sell well. That publisher got bought by another publisher, and that publisher said, holy cow, I want 2 more of these books. So I said, well, I'm already working on the second one. And so then the third one came out, and then I wrote the Business is Dead, which is nonfiction. And then I was working on another one that was not zombie, but it was still apocalyptic, and I liked it. But then, it just, everything is so in flux right now. It's kind of on hold. So I was actually talking with some of my other writers that I know. We're trying to figure out, should I write it as a book? I also saw it as a comic book. And I kind of had this whole thing that I really, really, really want this story to be a comic book. It's too short to be a graphic novel, but like a longer comic book, that would be my goal. That would be the next thing I'd really want. I really want a comic, like a long form comic book to tell the last story that I'm doing. And I always thought that the Exit Zero trilogy, because when I wrote it, I had this whole thing visualized in my mind, and I tried to write it very visual so people can kind of imagine the scenarios that are happening. I had written a short story called Pope Judas of Jersey, and the story is about
it sounds like a theme in your books.
Yeah, so it's about the Pope, and he is the youngest Pope. He's an American Pope, And he one day while he is giving mass, he gets hit by lightning and he's declared dead. He wakes up after several months, and they have elected a new pope, and they said, well, we can't have two popes. So they tell him, you got to go away. So he goes to New Jersey and becomes a blackjack dealer. And then you start to realize throughout the story that actually he is a blackjack dealer who has schizophrenia. And he was never really a pope, but he has gone off his meds. And this is the story he has concocted for himself. And it's the world he believes that the Vatican is trying to assassinate him. And that he has the powers to identify demons because of his popeship. And so when he is not dealing cards during the day, he goes out and patrols Atlantic City at night and hunts demons and kills demons. Now, we're not quite sure if he's killing real demons, if he's killing innocent people that he perceives as demons, or he's just killing the demons in his mind. But all this leads up to the zombie apocalypse and him in his delusions and his schizophrenic delusions and his demon slayer persona is perfectly equipped to survive the beginning of the zombie apocalypse as it descends on Atlantic City. So it's this insane story that I wrote that I would love to see brought to visualization in some way.
Yes.
So like a graphic novel.
Yes.
Something like that.
Neil, yes. Put it in form, put it in comic form. I think you might be, your brain works on a totally different pattern, and I think you may be sitting on some gold. No, seriously, you may be sitting on a cult series, like a cult classic. Definitely do it on comics.
I loved it. Like, I kind of saw it like Preacher. Do you remember the AMC series Preacher?
Oh yeah,
that came out after this, but I think that was a graphic novel before. But you know, it kind of reminded me of that. But this guy is definitely not a preacher. He's not a good guy. He's not a terrible guy. He's definitely a confused guy who has a mental illness, but he is not a good guy. And he's not a pope, no matter how much he thinks. The other one I'm working on that I saw as a visualization is it's funny. It was called the Terror Cell, spelled SELL. I don't want to give too much away. It is very, very relevant to today's time. Involves a sentient AI that is presents itself as an avatar and starts getting a very large following.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? It's time for us to do some looking at historic zombie movies. Since we have you as our special guest, I figured we might as well look at some zombie movies while you're here and get your insight, since you're a zombie aficionado. And apparently you've probably seen all of these, I'm guessing, multiple times.
I don't know. So, I haven't seen all I'm a very much of a zombie purist. Like, I love either the pure, slow, shambling zombie, which is my favorite. But I do like the last Dawn of the Dead, where they're fast moving. And Black Summer was fantastic with fast moving. That was just, holy cow, that was fantastic. What I don't like is when they go too far off canon, like zombies that know karate, or zombies that are magical. Or that's where I'm like,
All right. So you have to be a purist, like a zombie purist.
Okay. So let's see, which ones did you want to talk about?
All right. Well, the first one that I thought we could talk about was Sugar Hill. Have you seen Sugar Hill? Came out in 1974.
No, never even heard of it. I didn't write that one down.
Now, Sugar Hill is actually a blaxploitation movie, and it's about it goes like this. When her boyfriend is murdered by gangsters, Sugar Hill decides not to get mad, but get mad. She entreats voodoo queen Mama to call on Baron Somadai, Lord of the Dead, to help with a gruesome revenge. In exchange for Sugar's soul, the Dark Master raises up a zombie army to do her bidding. The bad guys who think they got away clean are now about to find out that they're dead wrong.
I've never even seen this. Now, this one is going much to the very core of where zombies came from, which is obviously Haitian voodoo.
Exactly.
When you go to White Zombie, that was what zombies were. Zombies were not really reanimated dead. They were people their souls were possessed by a voodoo doctor, witch doctor, who controlled them. So that was actually what the zombies were then.
And I love that you just said that, because that's exactly what's depicted in this movie.
Right.
No, I got to see that. I got to see that. Hopefully,
yeah, the zombies are exactly that type of zombie. This sort of voodoo Walking Dead who do the bidding of sort of a human master, and they're more of that than sort of the flesh-eating kind.
Yep.
So
holy cow, that's Quint.
That's Quint. You're absolutely right.
What's his name? I don't know his name.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but this was published. This was
Michael
produced.
Wright. That might
I don't know. We have to IMDb Jaws and see who Quint was. This was released by the American International Pictures that had also released Blackula and Scream, Blackula, Scream. So they were really well known. Look at those zombies. They were really well known for blaxploitation films.
Robert Shaw.
70s. Robert Shaw.
Oh, Robert Shaw. Damn, you got it faster than me.
Yes. Exactly.
Wasn't Wesley Snipes in this one as well? It's been a while since I've seen this one.
That's Wesley Snipes right there. That's like early on in his career.
Yes.
He's right out of acting school.
Are you still getting feedback from me?
No, actually, sound great.
All right. So Sugar Hill is not the Wesley Snipes film. This is something that predates Wesley Snipes. And no, that is not Quint that played in that character. That actor actually played in some other B horror movies. And I honestly think that he played a vampire in one, but I can't remember. Maybe we could look it up. But yeah, I guess he was. It does look like him, but it is not Robert Shaw. But yes, this film came out in the 70s. This is definitely my era. And I do remember quite vividly this being out. And it does deal with voodoo, Haitian voodoo.
Yes.
And her revenge on the man who was always portrayed as a white man.
Now, the 70s itself could be another show that you should have me back, because I am obsessed with the 70s. Obsessed with it. I collect 70s memorabilia, but I don't want to get off topic here. But
as long as it's horror memorabilia, we'll love it.
No, not so much horror. It's anything. I've got the original comic book of Batman meets the Black Panthers.
Oh, well, then you definitely have to come on to the Bitten Apple and discuss that. We'll have to discuss that on the
I've got all the Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh,
I've got Evil Knievel comics. I've got right behind me, I've got an Evil Knievel Crash Van. I've got a G.I. Joe Seawolf.
Oh, wow.
I am obsessed with 70s memorabilia.
Well, we definitely have to talk about that and bring you on the Bitten Apple and discuss the stuff that you have from the 70s, because that is definitely something we love. All right, so what's our next film?
Next film is Zombie, 1979. Strangers searching for a young woman's missing father arrive at a tropical island where a doctor desperately seeks the cause and cure for a recent epidemic of the undead.
I think I've seen this one. I'm trying to think if this starts off in New York.
Yes, it does.
It absolutely does.
This is the one. And can I say that I neglected to put footage of Zombie in there, but you can go watch it on Amazon Prime. And I would say that it is a classic when it comes to zombie movies. And it predates any type of special effects that we know of today in zombie films. So the zombie special effects is extra gory in this film.
Yes, I have some interesting tidbits about them filming in New York. Actually, there's apparently, I never saw this movie, but there's a large bald zombie who attacks the Harbor Patrol at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Well, apparently the actor who played that walked into CBGB's, which is, if people don't know this, a tiny Bowery bar with known for its punk rock venue, right? He walked into CBGB's in full zombie makeup, complete with splattered blood and mud caked all over his face and his body. And do you know, because this was like peak outrageous times during CBGB's, Nobody paid a freaking attention to this guy at all. He went up to the bartender and got a drink, and nobody paid any attention, even though he
That's
was
New
in
York for you.
full zombie regalia.
He couldn't do that today. Today, somebody would try to tackle him. I'm sorry.
Speaking of no CGI, there is apparently a famous scene in this movie where you have a shark versus a zombie.
Yes, there is a scene in this, and I watched the movie the other day, and I was sitting there trying to figure out how they actually filmed this interaction, because it is true interaction between the shark with fake blood and everything. And I was mesmerized because I was like, did they have a real shark mesmerizer play this role as a zombie?
I have the answer. You ready for this?
Tell me.
Since there was no CGI at the time and the production didn't have the budget for fancy animatronics, a real tiger shark was used for the infamous zombie versus shark fight scene. The tiger shark is one of the most dangerous shark species that exist. So the shark's trainer, how can you train a shark? I don't understand. Fed the shark right before filming, as well as doping the shark up with sedatives before
Yeah, I was gonna say they must have doped it up. There's no way you know, it's not like even like a lion or a tiger can be trained a little bit. You ain't training a shark, man. That's a dinosaur. It's a pure eating machine. It's like a zombie. All it knows how to do is move and eat.
Yep, definitely.
And then the final scene in this movie has zombies walking across the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yes.
And when they filmed it, it was cold and drizzling that day, and the extras playing the zombies had to keep themselves from shivering. Also, the fake blood had some ammonia in it to stop it from changing color. When it dripped into the actors' mouths, they would spit it out when the camera stopped rolling. All of the extra zombies in the New York scenes were locals who were paid $40 a day in two $20 banknotes, which had a single staple through them so as not to overpay anyone.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, I'm sure movies are made like that. When I was
I've been in movies like that. What do you mean?
I have too, by the way. I have too. We all did it in the name of a career.
I'm still waiting for that check.
I know. We used to do extra work for $50 a day, and that was like 30 years ago, but it was still not that long ago.
Nope, not really. Okay, and what's our next film? Thanks for that. That's actually some good stuff. But I highly recommend that you all go watch that on Amazon Prime. That it's on right now.
Oh, absolutely. Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, yes. We
The
definitely
classic.
have to talk about that.
Yeah, so 1968. So, of course, George Romero is the director. This is his vision, his conception, his first venture into movie making. A ragtag group of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves into an old farmhouse to remain safe from the horde of flesh-eating ghouls that are ravaging the East Coast of the United States. Is this the first time we see flesh-eating zombies?
I don't know. That's interesting.
That's very interesting, but I think that to this, the gratuity, no. Because they had people running out of the theater because of this, because of the gratuitousness.
My dad brought my mom on a date to see this, and my mom was like sick to her stomach.
Yeah. And that's extra funny knowing your parents.
Oh, yes. So this is, by the way, one of the most successful independent movies ever made. It was made for $114,000, and it has grossed about $30 million.
And it was a great on social commentary because, as you know, there was one black man in the midst of all these people, one man of color who was actually the savior of this group and the hero of this group, who ended up coming to a demise, sadly, because of being not only that, but becoming a zombie, actually, and because he was black too. So it was a commentary on what was going on in society at that time.
That's right. And
and Romero even talked about that he was talking about that he wanted, that it was kind of a representation of class warfare.
Yes, it definitely was. It definitely was.
Yeah.
And you could see all of that underpinnings of that in the film.
And all of those elements were not part of the original script, actually. This role was actually written for a white person, But then this actor showed up and did such an amazing job that it was completely rewritten for him.
He was
Now,
an amazing
I
actor.
believe Walking Dead is now like I'm trying to think, or not Walking Dead. Sorry, Night of the Living Dead is like community property. Like it's like you can show it without paying royalties.
Yeah.
Because that's why you see it in the background of so many other TV shows and movies. Like in WandaVision, we were talking earlier about WandaVision. They had it playing in the background. I think it can be played without paying a royalty.
Yeah, you know, when George Romero first did this, he didn't know anything about protecting his vision. So so he actually did not make very much money at all for Night of the Living Dead. And you're right, he didn't do what was necessary to protect the rights to the movie.
You can actually find Night of the Living Dead on YouTube right now and play the whole movie at 1 hour and 35 minutes and 17 seconds for free. Literally, if you look it up right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's also one of the last movies to be released without ratings. So before this, movies were released without an official rating system.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys know I'm the youngest one here. You know, I've never known that. What? A movie without a rating? That's imaginable.
Yeah, honestly, I wonder if that was. I'm trying to remember. Like, I went in and saw movies that were way inappropriate for me when I was way too young to be seeing them. Horror movies.
I don't think the ratings. Oh yeah, yeah. I don't think ratings, and I think that's true because I don't think the ratings actually existed at that time.
Yeah, they started in '69 actually.
Yeah.
Before then, but there was an expectation of family fare and that sort of thing. There wasn't a lot of, and there was a lot of marketing around.
And so I pulled up Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things was 1972.
Yes. I pulled that up on IMDb too. That looks really good, by the way.
I'm surprised I've never seen that. I'm definitely going to take a look at that this evening.
Yes. The next thing we want to talk about, though, is, of course, Dawn of the Dead. But we don't want to talk about the original Dawn of the Dead. We want to talk about the remake, the 2004 remake. Why? Because it was written by George Romero, directed by Zack Snyder, and starring Vin Rhames. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an incredible, one of the most fun zombie movies I've seen. It's about a nurse.
I rewatched it last night. It came on last night. I was about to go to bed and I was just flipping around the channels and it was just starting. It was the scene where she's coming out of the hospital and there's like a little bit. I love the slow build. Yeah, something's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of ominous feeling, but nothing out of the ordinary. And then the next morning, it just hits the fan. And that scene, the
opening scene, the first 15 minutes of this film are riveting. That completely drew you in. Completely. It was just this moment of peace, but then you see there's chaos in the background. It's filmed so wonderfully. You see that there's chaos going around in the background, but you have no idea what this chaos is because it hasn't been revealed to anyone until the scene in her home. And I am telling you, it is an amazing opener. Amazing.
And that pan, so the way he shot it, the pan when she first comes out of the house after being attacked by the husband and looks around the neighborhood.
Yes.
And it's everybody is discovering what is happening at once. There's people still outside on their front lawn, like looking like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
You know? Right. And then the big picture where she's driving away and you see the macro of what's happening.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now it's funny because so Zack Snyder, I loved this movie. I did not like Army of the Dead.
I did not either, by the way, which of course did not make it on this list. I honestly thought that it was like a take on Ghost of Mars. And it kind of made me have that same feeling about it. The zombies in it, the zombie who was the main zombie and all the situation. I didn't like it at all. I didn't feel like there was any imagination in it. But let's actually talk about this real quickly, because we have to do a few more, and we've got about 10 minutes. I want to get these in.
Yeah.
So this film, I think, also introduced this really fast-paced zombie that was running, that you couldn't really get away from, that had a normal human cadence. It was not a lumbering zombie. It was just really fast. Like, you had to get away. A lot of physicality in this, and ravenous zombies at that. Amazing movie. Beautifully shot by Zack Snyder.
And this is actually came out 2 years after. Ooh, lovely. Baby.
That's the baby when it turned. Oh,
yeah, the first ever baby zombie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They never
Nice.
did they ever bring a baby zombie back? I think that was just like a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
Pushing the limits.
I'm trying to think if they did.
I don't think I've ever seen a baby zombie in anything. I think this was the first time, because I know that while this situation was going on, I had pure anxiety over this birth. And that means that I had never seen it before.
I want to tell you the best scene for this movie for me was this movie was great. I love, especially when Vingren was playing chess with the guy and he turned into a zombie and he answered back with blood. Was the ending scene when they make it to the island.
Don't tell anybody, because we're not, we don't
I was
want
just
to
thinking whether or not I should say spoiler alert, but okay, that ending scene seems so realistic and it brought back the horror into it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, there were moments of peace in this and normalcy, and then all of a sudden just all hell breaks loose.
Oh and great music too.
Yeah.
Great music. Like in the beginning, I like where they do the I think it was Johnny Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire.
That was amazing. And then they do like a Tony Bennett version of "Get Down with the Sickness."
Yes.
I don't know who
Rob
sang
Zombie. Rob Zombie sang that song "Get Down with the Sickness," and then they did a Tony Bennett version of it.
Was it Tony Bennett?
No, it wasn't Tony Bennett. I think it was just somebody who did it in that swing style.
Yeah,
but that's a Rob Zombie film. I mean, a Rob Zombie song.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know the "Get Down with the Sickness."
Mm-hmm.
But then how they did it with a very like, hey, get down. Yeah. And in that, where everybody's kind of settling in.
Yeah.
And, life is. Now, it's funny because one of the things I always struggled with movies, I like when the zombie apocalypse is beginning. And then I love the very beginning. When it gets too far into it, it's too far down the pike. It's many, many, many years afterwards, and they're living in an agrarian society, with, they're talking about blacksmith internships and apprenticeships and trading with different communities. For me, it's too far away. I want to see normal people like me dealing with zombies. I want to see everyday people.
I think somebody has to write that other side of it, because we're seeing a Walking Dead version of it, or we're seeing these versions that have been copied, but people need to see a version of it that most of us don't see. How does a child survive through this? What if the child is left alone? What happens? There's so many scenarios that can come from a zombie apocalypse. I often look, one of the things that I love about Jersey is the fact that there are so many warehouses here. And I swear that if a zombie apocalypse did break out, I know exactly where I would go to live out, because there's just so many, this place is just ripe for those kind of movies,
Well, if you in my book, I kind of incorporate those in Exit Zero and New Jersey. The big ones you see on the turnpike, they're like huge truck depots where 60, 70 trucks. Well, that's where they back up and they store the zombies. When the zombie patrols are scooping them up, they scoop them up and then they get put in big tractor trailers. And then in Jersey, there's those big warehouses and they store them there and they're just pushing them in there.
Yeah.
But of course, things go awry. But that's
people are not familiar with that. People are not familiar with how that looks, and it has a very apocalyptic feel to it here in New Jersey. It's perfect for a zombie movie. But we have a few more movies that we want to bring up before we end this evening. Augie, can you go to your next film?
Sure. 28 Days Later came out 2 years before Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
And it was one of the first movies that I remember seeing where you had, zombies that were fast. Like they were, like you had to haul butt to get away from these zombies. And, they did nothing but cast athletes as the people that were infected in this movie, because they had to really be fast. And it's about 4 weeks after a mysterious incurable virus spreads throughout the UK. And this looks at a handful of survivors trying to find sanctuary. And it, of course, is directed by the famous Danny Boyle and stars Cillian Murphy, who you see right here. And I love this scene, actually. I think this is such a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
Filmed on a Sunday morning.
It starts off with him yelling hello, and it ends with the word hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I tell you, I think Cillian Murphy is a friggin' vampire. I just saw a Netflix something. He was in it, and I said, "Oh, look how young he is." And my wife goes, "No, this is new.
Oh,
the guy doesn't friggin' age."
It's because he's got Irish blood.
Oh, really?
No, I got some Irish buddies, and man, they aged terribly.
maybe he's not living a hard Irish life.
Yeah, but no, I swear to God, the guy doesn't friggin' age. But no,
he's a gorgeous man.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he really is.
This is one of my favorite films because one of my scientific, oh my God, what's happening? I can't believe they did it kind of series that it falls into. Like when it comes to aliens, here it is. The rage virus is contained in these animal activists. We're like, oh, we're going to save the monkeys that they're experimenting on. The guy's like, you can't do it. And they just like, nah, we're going to do it. And then it leads to this. And then that opening scene. And then it's just like the fall of humanity and just morals is so great. And then you have zombies that literally chase you from here to Kingdom Come. It was beautiful. 28 days later, I ended up buying the DVD set before like HD and Blu-ray blew up. I bought the DVD set and I lost it way before then because I loved it. Loved it.
Let me tell you what I think that really got me about this film was what's her name? And I can't think of her name right now, the actress who played this, but the scene in which she had her partner got bit and she had to make a choice to get
Naomi Harris.
Yeah, Naomi Harris's partner, and the way in which she made quick work of her partner after that partner had gotten bit. And I knew then that she was a force to be reckoned with in this film. And I loved her. I loved her choices. I loved her character. I just absolutely loved this character in this movie.
I love the scene where I don't want to do spoilers away, but there's one scene and how they shot it. And it's probably the most inconsequential scene, but I loved it. It's where Cillian Murphy, he's handcuffed in a room with another guy, and he got knocked out. He's coming to, and you hear the other guy talking, and it sounds like the other guy's talking gibberish. But as he's coming to, you hear what the other guy's talking about, and you hear that he's making sense.
Yes.
And you start to understand what that other guy in the room is saying and what he's talking about. Yeah. And that I loved how they did that. Now, I was going to bring up something. I just lost. Oh, what I would love to see more than anything is 28 hours later. They did 28 weeks later.
They did, yes.
I'd like to see 28 hours later. I'd like to see a totally new movie, Train to Busan like, with the first 28 hours or 28 hours after the first infection.
Nope. I'm going to go against you, Neil. I would like to go against, I like for them to do exactly what we talked about, where you have to find out how people adapted to living with zombies in 28 months later. Boom.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah. But, well, we don't know if they did. Didn't it end? Which
28 weeks.
One?
Yeah, that was a horrible movie, by the way. It was no comparison to the first movie. And
28 days was amazing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I did like the ending of 28 weeks later. The very ending.
The very ending, which we won't talk about because we don't want to spoil anything. The next movie is Train to Busan. I love that Neil just talked about Train to Busan because this was the next movie. It came out in 2016. It's about a zombie virus outbreak in South Korea, and passengers struggle to survive on a train from Seoul to Busan.
Well, what is most important about this film is the relationship between the main character and his daughter.
Yep.
And his protection of his daughter. So one of the things that I love about Korean horror films as a whole is that they always tie in the emotional with the horror. And there's also some comedy thrown in there too. But they have been, and I said this before, they have been knocking it out of the park when it comes to horror films. And I am just, I'm hooked on anything that comes out that's a horror film that comes out of Korea right now. I'm just so into it. But this movie, I literally at the end of this movie broke down and cried like a baby at the end of this movie.
Wow.
It completely took me off guard. It completely grabbed my heart. And I knew then that this was gold.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Devastating ending. Devastating.
Yeah.
Sadness. I actually watched it with my daughters. But so many iconic scenes in this.
Yeah.
When they go to the station that they're told to go to be where they're going to be safe because the military has that station under control. Fantastic scene. Amazing scene.
Yeah.
The slow build.
Yeah.
Again, in the beginning, weird things happening around you. Definitely, there's a lot of class. In Korean films, they're very, very much focused on class structure. Parasite.
Yeah.
Train to Busan. Remember,
Right.
the homeless guy,
Right.
Versus the super rich, powerful guy, or Squid Games. And what was cool is I just read a tweet. I try not to read tweets. I try to stay away from Twitter, but I saw someone that I liked had forwarded it. And it was the guys from Squid Games who said they'd been pitching that concept since 2008.
Yeah.
And everybody just told them, go pound sand. No one was interested in it until they got a shot with Netflix. And now it's like the #1 series in the world.
Yeah. I think people have been sleeping on, I am a big fan of any type of Asian horror. I mean, this is definitely new to me, not new to me when it comes to that. Vince, this movie right here is Train to Busan. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but definitely check it out as Korean horror film. And I tell everybody, nobody can create horror like our Asian community. The Asian community has a way of getting into underneath your skin that I cannot put my finger on it. And when we try as Americans to Americanize anything that they have created, like The Eye or Dark Water or any of those films, we miss the mark. We 100%. Miss the mark. The Grudge. We completely miss the mark. These people know horror and they know what makes people scared. And so we've been sleeping on it. And now everybody's like woke up about who they are and how they create their content. Amazing. Asian horror, Asian, series like we've been watching. I just watched something called Sweet Home on Netflix that totally was not expecting. Some of the creature effects are just unbelievable. Just
you're giving me some effects. Good things to look up here.
Yeah.
Sweet Home.
Yeah, Sweet Home. Really, really good content. Totally unexpected. What you consider to be the ending and everything. I'm telling you, people have been sleeping on Asian film, Asian horror, Asian content. But let's go on to our last film.
Is there a last or second to last?
Might be second to last. I'm trying to figure out what I have here.
What I have is Shaun of the Dead.
Yes, definitely
That's
Shaun
the
of
next
the Dead.
film.
The classic.
And I have to call it out because it's one of my favorites.
Yep.
I love comedy and zombies. I just think it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got everything. It's touching. The scene where Sean's dad, the last talk that Sean's dad has with Sean is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking. It's gorgeous.
You know,
Yeah.
in a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and so much layering in it. Like, I have seen that movie probably 50 times, and 50 times I catch something new in every time I see it. There's so many little Easter eggs in there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's written by Simon Pegg as well.
Well, then again, you can't, and just Simon Pegg himself, just that it's what it's going to be like if Simon Pegg is involved in it, because it's just his dynamic, it's his aura, it's who he is. But also one of my favorites, definitely some of my favorites.
George Romero loved this so much that he asked Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, the two people that were on that, to make a cameo in Land of the Dead. And they did.
Wow.
As zombies. They were zombies in Land of the Dead.
They were.
Really?
I gotta see that. I
Wow.
gotta see that.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this film.
Yeah, just absolute brilliance. Could never be recaptured. If you ever want to see something funny, watch the outtakes where they shot them in the pub. Just was it Nick Frost and Simon Pegg? They did a whole bunch of just him riffing, where he's trying to cheer up Simon Pegg, and he's just riffing on different things, and it's in the outtakes. Just hysterical.
I'm definitely gonna watch that.
And
If you haven't seen it, it's on. You can find it on YouTube as well. Like, there's several different scenes where there were outtakes where they just kind of tried different things, and the two of them or different actors just riffing on different ideas while they're going through it.
I also have to say too that the comedy, British comedy, is just unmatched, and so the funny and the subtleties in all of these films, it just, I'm telling you, I love foreign film because of that, and I think it takes us out of the whole dynamic of American film. I'm not saying that American film is not bad, but sometimes it lacks imagination. And these are just really just creative stories.
Just the idea
that have become iconic.
Yeah,
right.
Just the idea that they have to get to a pub in order to save themselves is just hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, also, I saw there was they did a illustration of the actress girl who dives out the window for her boyfriend after he's being ripped apart. In that, she survives, and they did a storyboard of her story about how she survives after that scene.
Oh my God!
I've seen that posted somewhere. And it's funny because I've seen Sean, the woman who plays Sean's mom. They showed his real life mom who came to the set, and her side by side, and they're almost identical. And the reason he cast her is because because she looked so much like his mother that he wanted to have that vibe so that he
could have the same vibe. Yeah,
definitely. The last movie that we're going to talk about is called Overlord. It came out in 2018.
So this was a sleeper. I see Neil is giving it an okay. I absolutely love this film.
I never saw this one.
And I think that I loved about it was it combined a 1940s aesthetic, soldiers, with Nazis and a chemical that they were creating. And the things that the Nazis were involved in during the World War II were just fascinating. I mean, sometimes movies cannot capture some of the things that they had their hands in. So this was just a story given like this, but it was in the theaters. I actually went to go to the theaters to see this, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting this film to turn out the way that it was. So can you give us? Go ahead.
It's realistic because the Nazis were trying all this stuff. They were trying to develop super soldiers.
Sure.
They were working experiments to try to figure out how to create super soldiers.
Right.
And this is based on that. And like they said, for 1,000-year war, you need soldiers that can live for 1,000 years.
Yep.
So one of the
It's-
characters in this, one of the lead actors in this, also surprisingly, is that while I was looking at the film, I was like, wow, he looks so familiar to me. He acts like somebody. And he is Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell's son.
That's right. Wyatt Russell.
Yes.
He plays Corporal Ford. Absolutely. He actually, when he was filming
Get
this
outta
movie, yes, he is. And when he was filming this movie, he actually had mono.
Yeah, well, he didn't look very healthy during this film. I mean, here's a picture right here of him, and he looks like he's on death's door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He
he's
was
It's
not.
great that he just was there infecting the rest of the cast.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah.
where is the union? Where is the
Yeah.
union right now?
Well, I think that they knew that they were doing a good work, and so they just went ahead and did it. And of course, we didn't hear any after effects about it. But I will say something about him. He reminds me very much of his father.
Oh, Kurt Russell.
Yeah, in this film, and that's where it dawned on me. I was like, he looks like somebody, or I feel some kind of vibe from him. And then it was Kurt Russell. But this was it was a very
I
unique
didn't know
film.
that. I got to look that up. I definitely got to watch. I got to watch it again. I got to give it a second chance.
Do
Yeah.
it. Give it a chance, Neil. Give it a chance.
But
it actually takes place on the eve of D-Day.
yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. I'm telling you, it's really good. It combined a lot of things that I love, a lot of aesthetics that I love, which is 1940s horror films,
Mhm.
zombies and horror, and a black lead actor, which was unexpected.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, they didn't have any swastikas in this movie, even though it was about the Nazis.
How could they do that?
I don't know.
And you know what? I never missed it because
Yeah.
I already knew that they were Nazis just by the way that they were. They didn't have to show me a swastika to tell me who they were.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Now
you didn't bring it up on this, but I do want to recommend it. I've become obsessed with it. Is Black Summer, the Netflix series Black Summer. Now, it's a great series, but the last episode of the first season, it's only 20 minutes long, the entire episode, but the final episode of season 1 is one of the greatest pieces of zombie material I've ever seen. And
Black Summer?
yeah, with
Black Summer. Okay.
Black Summer. It's the prequel to Z Nation. But now I didn't like Z Nation. I never
I
watched
didn't either.
I didn't like
it
Z
either.
Nation at all. But Black Summer, there's been season 1 and season 2. Season 2, good, not as good as season 1. Season 1, good, but the last episode, when all the characters finally arrive at the location that they're supposed to arrive at for the government to rescue them, is so well done and so well directed and so heart pounding. It's everything I wanted World War Z to be in that 120 minutes.
I'm gonna have to take a look at this
Yeah.
because I started Black Summer, the episode 1, and it was kind of slow for me, and I just never went back.
Hey, that looks like
Episode
me.
1.
That looks
Just
like me in the
watch,
beginning of this.
if nothing else, watch. But it's better if you watch the whole thing. But if you don't have the time to binge, just watch 20 minutes, the last episode, season 1.
All right. So we're going to have to look at that and actually give our own review.
We
Now,
will.
we do have some honorable mentions before we end our show this evening. And I want to mention one that we did not talk about this earlier today, but I definitely have to throw in there the Resident Evil franchise. Even though the films do not go along with the gaming itself, I will say that Resident Evil 1, which Eddie and I went to see together to theater, it was probably the only good movie at that time that he took me
I
to
know
go
why
see.
you
'Cause it was
always
a-
bring this up.
No, I was gonna say it early in the show, but I gave you a grace.
Yeah, he always takes me to bad movies, but we really enjoyed this film. It was really the first one when it came out, and I was very excited because as a gamer and as a player of the Resident Evil franchise, I was very pleased at how it turned out. And anything that came after that, Resident Evil 2 actually was pretty good, but after that, it was kind of went downhill. We're going to mention that. And what are our other honorable mentions, Eddie?
Zombieland.
Yes, of course.
The remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, which was excellent. And that had Tony Todd in it. Very well acted. I couldn't think of a better person to portray that role. as the lead character of our hero. But Tony Todd was excellent, and it was really well done, by the way.
And the final one is Dawn of the Dead. We talked about the Dawn of the Dead remake, but we gotta give props to Dawn of the Dead, you know?
Yeah, that's right. So really, really good.
Tom Savini.
Yeah, Tom Savini,
who just turned 75, by the way.
Wow.
Kudos.
Still
Yeah,
buff.
definitely.
He's still buff. How is
Yeah.
that possible? He's 75 and still buff?
He's from
Obviously,
Jersey.
I'm doing something wrong.
He's from Jersey. He's from Jersey.
He is?
Yes, he
I
lives
didn't
here
know
in
that.
Jersey. You know, he actually has a haunted house that he puts together. This is pre-COVID that we were actually talking about going and attending, where he does all of the special effects in this haunted house, and it's somewhere here in Jersey.
Oh, I'm down
Yeah.
for that. If I got to wear a
me
mask,
too.
I'm down for that.
Definitely.
All
Well,
right.
So listen, just one more thing I want to reiterate to our audience that we will be moving to Tuesday nights at 7:30, starting January the 4th.
Tingling Tuesdays. Starting
right.
Tuesday night, January 4th.
January the 4th. We'll be going to 7:30 Tuesday nights, and we will be having a hiatus for the holidays. So I think our last show before we go on hiatus will be next week.
Yay.
So make sure you tune in before we switch over to Tuesday nights. We're not going to be able to do our segment this evening of What Did I Just See? But we will be doing that next week since we don't have that much time this evening. So we want to thank you so much for hanging with us. We did experience some technical difficulties at the beginning of the show. And Neil, thank you so much for coming in and just being a joy and talking about all things zombies with us. And just your mind, we can't wait to see that mind be put down to paper and start seeing things that you're going to create.
Yes.
And here's something to you, Neil, I want to say to you. If nobody picks up whatever it is that you're doing, there are plenty of independents out here, independent directors, actors. Hey, I'm throwing myself in here too, who will do any film that you write.
No,
Yeah.
well, that would be wonderful. I would love it. But I gotta. I'm definitely not a producer, director, screenwriter, movie guy. I need someone that knows how to do that stuff.
Said millions of people before they became
Yep.
directors, producers, and screenwriters.
Yep.
So, with that being said, thank you so much for joining us this evening, everybody, and hanging in there with us this evening for the Tingling Tea. We will be back next Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 Central Standard Time, and 3:30 Central. What is it? Pacific Time.
I don't know. You got me.
I don't know
Oh
my
my
Pacific.
God.
We'll come back with
7:30
time
Eastern
zones.
time.
7:30 Eastern Time. Neil, thanks again, once again, for just for joining us, and
Yes,
I'm sure
Neil.
that you are going to be working on what you were talking on prior to the show. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
By the way, you all, I'm going to just do a quick advertisement before we close this evening. I have another business, and I sell the Body Shop at home. So if you're interested in buying Body Shop products for your significant other, friends, family for the holidays, just take a look at my content on Facebook and on Instagram. Here we go. All right, y'all, go get that stuff. Holidays are getting close.
I want to know what they're giving to them. I'm going on to that store.
Can I just
Right
say
now.
that all of my profits go to the Newark feral cat community.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so just to let you all know, we have a very booming feral cat community, and we have a lot of volunteers who do take their own time and their own money to take care of our feral population and to neuter and spay them, get them shots, their rabies shots, and to make sure that they're defleed before we let them back into their environment. So that's where all my profits go.
Very, very
and
good.
You can follow them on the Backyardigans, which is Backyardigans, not Backyardigans, but Backyardigans on TikTok and on Instagram and on Facebook. All right. Have a good evening, you all. Thank you once again.
Thanks,
you all
everybody.
stay safe and stay spooky. We'll see you next week.
Stay spooky.
Bye-bye.